Yo, 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 yo. Welcome to the Rocket City Network. We are back. So, last week I did a story here in Huntsville about a family that was seeking to get money owed to them from the university. You guys all seen the video. If you haven't, go back and watch it. But I just wanted to bring Professor Courtney on, and I want to get his perspective on what he thought about the whole story. All right. So, Courtney, what did you think about that story that just broke?
My first my first thought rather is the chickens are coming home to roost.
Mm.
Listen, man, you can't. America has done an excellent job. Unfortunately, I'm not giving them credit for this, but they've done an excellent job of suppressing truth from people.
Mhm.
And you can only go, it seems like they've gotten away with it, but you know, you can't suppress the truth forever. And this just goes to show you, as you and I were talking through text and on the phone, man, just saying how you made a great point saying how this this theft of property from this black family really put them behind the eight ball in creating that generational wealth
Exactly.
that we all talk about and want. And then to know that black people, in spite of racism, worked hard and paid for property because they knew that on down the line this would benefit
Hmm.
their descendants. And then you have other people come and snatch it and take it and threaten the family, and they're forced to leave because they don't have the resources to sit and fight this thing out, no matter how much they wanted to. They know that in the end, that lies and deceit and falsehoods was more powerful than the truth at that time. And so to see this story come out around again, or to see this story coming out,
Hmm.
and how the family, and rightfully so, are staking claim to this land which they rightfully own because it was stolen from them. UAH needs to do the right thing, rectify this wrong that you have committed towards this family, and give them their land, or come off that bag and give them that money for that land that was stolen for them for all these years. And you built campuses and you've done all this money, made all this money off this land, knowing knowing that knowing the history behind this, that this land was stolen from black people and they owned it rightfully, and you came in and stole it and took it and enriched yourselves, and meanwhile kicked this black family off their rightfully owned property.
And if you think about it in the context of when this land was acquired, right? This is before we all wanted the 8,000 square foot homes.
Correct.
This was before we all wanted the Mercedes Benz, the
Right.
BMWs, right?
Mhm.
This family, Willie Jones Sr. and his family, his relatives, they understood the importance of land ownership, right?
Right.
It's just so disheartening because so many times you've heard of people being sharecroppers, right?
Right.
For generations. And then they're
Mhm.
finally able to own something, right? Because they want to pass down a piece of land to their kinfolk, their
Right.
descendants, right? And it's
Mhm.
stripped away from them. Like you said earlier, the generational wealth that was lost.
Yeah.
So many of his descendants could have benefited from this money, right?
Mhm.
Look at all the college tuition payments that could have been made,
Mhm.
all the Christmas gifts,
Mhm.
birthday gifts,
Yeah.
right? So this family wasn't able to benefit from the hard work that Mr. Willie Jones and those who came before him in that family they worked for.
Right.
So it's very disheartening, and I feel that UAH or whoever is over this land, I'm sure they made their money tenfold,
Oh yeah.
right?
Oh yeah.
It's just time to do the right thing. You are on land that was stolen,
Mm.
and the crazy thing about it is the business administration building sits there, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's mighty hypocritical that you can be a professor in economics, right? Knowing that the very classroom that you're teaching at, it wasn't, the transaction wasn't legal, right?
Mhm.
Situation where they forged his name,
Yeah.
right? And this again was at a time where black folks, they couldn't depend on the police department. They
Nope.
couldn't depend on legislators.
Mm-mm.
They couldn't depend on the mayor, the governor, right? So imagine that. You have nobody to go to bat for you.
Right.
Yes, you might be able to afford a lawyer, right? But you're
Mhm.
going to have a judicial system that is completely against you,
Yeah.
right? So years later, if we're talking about we're in a post-racial society,
Hmm.
color doesn't matter, right? But you have to understand color did matter when this tragedy happened,
Yeah.
right? And I spoke to a couple of the family members, and they just loved the video. They just told me to keep on pressing it, which I will, because even though I'm not related to them, this is actually an American story, right? It's a Black American story because it doesn't matter if you're on the East Coast, the West Coast, down south, or up north, there are similar stories to this,
Yeah.
right? You
Mhm.
look at Rosewood in Florida, right?
Yeah.
So many situations where land that was owned by Black people was just stripped away, taken away out of greed, out of hatred.
Mhm. Mm.
I
I
mean,
mean, that's the listen, I'm just thinking about coming up in this American school system and knowing all these stories that we hear about in our 40s now, 30s and 40s as we've gotten older and we've branched out and we've read books and we've watched documentaries. It's just amazing how everything that we were taught in school was a lie. Like, you know, if Black History Month come, another friend of mine and I were just talking about this today. We were just talking about how it's always to the forefront. Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, maybe some Frederick Douglass, maybe some Booker T. Washington, but never a Rosewood, never a Rosewood, never about this situation with the Davis family in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, never about Black Wall Street in Oklahoma,
no,
Tulsa. And so it's just so crazy to see how this thing was was crafted to keep our history down, because they know what they did to our forefathers, to our ancestors, and pretty much they're continuing that. The thing about white supremacy, the playbook doesn't change. It hasn't changed. It's the same playbook. They're not doing any wrinkles. They're using the same playbook that they used back in those days and times. And here we are in 2023, and this Black family is finally, it seems like the wrong that happened to them will finally be corrected prayerfully and
mhm,
hopefully that this thing will work out in their favor and UAH will do the right thing and compensate them uh, properly, because you
yes,
can't tell me that you haven't made billions off this land. You
mhm,
can't tell me that. And so you, like you said, UAH needs to do the right thing, and need to meet with this family and right this wrong, and help this family get what they deserve from their land. It's their land.
yes,
You acquired this land through deceitful tactics and intimidation. And so now that you've been caught, your hand has been caught in the cookie jar, so to speak, you need to again do the right thing and compensate this family because you say if you work hard, if you pull yourself up by the bootstraps, which they
mhm,
did, they worked hard, they
yes,
pulled themselves out the boots off by the bootstraps and purchased land. And when they did that, what did you do? You were there to reap the benefits of what they did, and take all their blood, sweat, and tears and make it more profitable for you, meanwhile leaving them without bootstraps, like MLK said.
Yeah.
So UAH, you need to get with this family. You need to get with this family, your officials, their lawyers, your lawyers, and right this wrong. If we're gonna talk about we're in a post-racial society and we don't see color, which is a lie, but help this family out and do the right thing and restore that legacy that they started way back then.
And like I said, I'm a numbers guy, so I always go back to the generational wealth that was lost. All right. Just, land being a commodity, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Just think how much this family could have benefited, right?
Yeah.
Just look at this family, and they could have had homes on this land,
Yeah.
if they wanted to. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they could have, of course, sold the land and split it amongst the relatives and the family
Right.
members, and they could have done some right with it. They just didn't get the opportunity
Right.
because the misconception is that folks are going to just squander their blessings, and that's not the case. Like I
Mm-hmm.
said, they didn't even have the opportunity
Right.
to do that. So, and I know a lot of times reparations always comes up every so many years. Reparations comes up, right? And one of the biggest obstacles and hurdles is that there's really no way for us to go back and point and say, hey, Mr. Stokes, you should be allotted this amount of money based off the hours that your ancestors worked. Or there's really no way to quantify what
Right.
you're worth. But in this situation, there is a way to quantify,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
It's just like I said, like I've always been saying, it's so disheartening to
Mm-hmm.
to see what this family had to go through, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, just think, right? Money being the equalizer, or
Yeah.
like you have Booker T. Washington, who he preached economic equality, right?
Mm-hmm.
Booker T. Washington, he built over 5,000 schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most notably Tuskegee University, right?
Mm-hmm.
And this happened in Alabama, Huntsville, Alabama, only a couple of hours away from Tuskegee.
Yeah.
This family understood the importance of trying to attain economic equality,
Mm-hmm.
right? They knew land was the best way to go during that time.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, blood, sweat, and tears, just all that hard work just gone
Yeah.
because somebody who felt that they were superior and
Mm-hmm.
felt that they were entitled to this land and felt that they had the right and the power to forge a person's name
Yeah.
on some documents. It's it's crazy. And like I told the family members, I'm gonna keep on pressing forward with this. And I and
Mm-hmm.
and I and I respect them for following the channel and just being there and supporting them like I'm trying to support for supporting me like I'm trying to support them. Right.
Definitely.
Final thoughts on this.
Man, it's not shocking to know that this happened to our people back then. Um Again, we mentioned working hard and pulling yourself by the bootstraps. And even, and what's more amazing with that is that, racism never went away. But I was telling my students the other day, I'm like, imagine growing up during that time, 17, 18, early 1900s as a Black American in this country, and no law protected you from anything, right? And for these individuals to live in that type of climate, for this man to live in this type of climate, and to be able to work hard and still, because I'm pretty sure he went through hell and high water just to purchase the land.
Yes.
You feel me?
Yeah.
Like,
And I'm pretty sure he was overcharged for it too.
correct. So in spite of all those obstacles, he was still able to purchase this land and start creating, looking ahead again, looking down the road, understanding that I don't know how big the land was or how small it was, but understanding that through this simple, not simple transaction, but through this transaction, this thing could grow,
Yes.
right? And to have the rug snatched from under them for all these years, all these decades, and meanwhile, UAH is and I'm pretty sure you've been on their campus. I know I've been on their campus. It's a nice campus, but to understand now that this dark history that's behind it, man, it's just again, like I said in the very beginning, you cannot suppress the truth forever. And this won't be the last story that comes out on how Black people's land was stolen. We know there are other stories out there that came out before, but this one kind of hits close to home because you currently live in Huntsville. I used to live in Huntsville. You went to A&M. I went to Oakwood. My wife she started at Oakwood, but she's a graduate of UAH. And so it's just understanding, man, while it didn't directly happen to us, but it indirectly affects us. And so I just pray and hope that all works well in the favor of this family. And like I've said throughout this video, is that I pray and hope that it works in their favor and they get compensated for following the American dream.
Yes, yes. As always, like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and we are out. Yeah.